The Panthers eliminate the Tampa Bay Lightning in 5 with their win yesterday. Let's talk about it right now. Let's go out to the Toyota of Hollywood guest line. Shop over 2,000 Toyotas on sale at one location. Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. ToyotaofHollywood.com. There from FloridaPanthers.com. Jameson Olive joining us here on the program. Jameson, thanks for joining us again, man. Thank you so much and appreciate you stopping by.
Anytime. Love coming on the show, guys.
What did you make of yesterday? They put the hammer down on him. It was a very exciting back and forth affair, but that third period, it felt like they just kind of took the life out of Tampa Bay. A lot of great performances. What was the one that stood out to you the most yesterday?
There's a lot to get to. Obviously, I think it was impressive. The Panthers, for the first time in the series, went down 1-0, but stuck with it, came back right away, got the lead soon after. But you look at, to me, more than anything, it's the third line. It's Etulo Staraina, Anton Lundell, Brad Marchand. In the series, the Panthers led 4-0 in goals when they were on the ice, and you saw why in that Game 5. They were absolutely dominant. Just Brad Marchand was slicing and dicing through the defense. Etulo Staraina was getting all the helpers. 4 points, only the fourth Panther to ever do that in a playoff game. First one to ever do it in a series clinching game. And then Anton Lundell just winning all the key faceoffs, getting some big moments, big points, goals, assists. So there's a lot of different reasons the Panthers won this series, and specifically that game. But I think the biggest X factor was that third line, which is just a matchup nightmare for teams that aren't as deep as the Panthers are.
What do you make of that too? Because it's like, I feel like we joke, it's like Florida's little Finland. It's like they got this squadron of great players, but I feel like he is almost the most underrated out of all of them, because obviously you got Barkov, baby Barky with Lundell, Mikko is going to kill anybody because he's a monster. But that dude just kind of seems like he does a little bit of everything. He shows up with the big plays. So like when you watch him, for the fans who are just getting into it with the playoffs, what is the things that just make him special?
He's Mr. Under the Radar. He's soft-spoken. If you get him off to the side, he's great. He can talk forever, but on camera, of course, he's pretty short, but he's the man. He's an absolute dog. This team loves to forecheck, and he's an elite forechecker. He started out his career as a center, got shifted to the wing, was on the fourth line when Paul Maurice got here. He gets bumped up to the third. He's even played a bit in the top 6, but for the most part, he's on that third line with Anton Lundell because their chemistry is so good and has grown so much over the years. But he's incredible, and he comes up big in the playoffs. He's a playoff performer. We don't talk about that enough. You go back 2 years ago, that first round upset over Boston, Game 6, Etulo Staraina has the game-winning goal. And I dove into it a bit this morning. So I'm like, man, when I think about the playoffs the last couple of years, I actually think about Etu quite a bit. He's 10th all time in playoff games played for the Panthers, and he's 11th in points, 7th in plus minus. Like, he's not Barkov, Verhaeghe, Reinhart, Tkachuk, those guys, but he's right there. He's that next tier. He's just a consistent playoff performer for the Cats, and you need those guys. You can't just win with your top stars, especially in the playoffs. Top stars, as we saw with guys like Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, they can be, taken out of series. You need your depth guys to step up, and for year over year, it's been Etu for the Cats, just doing a great job.
It was amazing to me. Should we be giving Paul Maurice more credit for being able to find the right combinations? Because when you see, like, I'll use the Heat as an example. Sometimes, Spo does better when there's less, like when his rotation is only 7 or 8. Whereas you look at Paul Maurice, the way he puts these guys together, and it always seems to work. You very rarely hear a situation where you say those guys shouldn't be playing on that line together.
It's Paul Maurice, it's Bill Zito. It's them working in tandem. It's the entire hockey ops team here. The Panthers, more than anything these last couple of years, have been so good at identifying fit. There's so many players that maybe wouldn't succeed elsewhere or weren't succeeding elsewhere that the Panthers immediately pointed to and said, that guy, he's just in the wrong place. They're asking him to do the wrong stuff. We know that when we bring him here, he's going to fit right away. You look at Seth Jones in particular, was getting, just piled on in Chicago. He was getting a lot of heat there. He comes to the Panthers. He fits perfectly. He's been so good on the back end for these guys. And you can say the same about guys like Carter Verhaeghe, who they took out of the kind of the rubble heap there in Tampa. He wasn't getting playing time, and now he's an all-timer here with the Cats. So over the years, that's what they've done. Yes, they have some big stars. Yes, they made splashy trades for guys like Matthew Tkachuk. But they've also just found guys that were maybe underappreciated, underutilized elsewhere and brought them in. And then once they do get here, Paul Maurice just knows how to work them. He knows how to coach them up. Talking to the guys, one of the biggest things Paul Maurice does that, multiple players have told me is he just gets in their head in the best kind of way. So many guys, especially in the playoffs and in these big moments, can stress and, be worried and get caught up in their own heads. And they say Paul Maurice will come over during a practice, pull you over on the ice, talk to you, and immediately what you had in there is gone, and whatever he said is now in there. He's able to get in your head like that and put in the thoughts he wants. So he's a player's coach. And we talked about, Tobin was saying this team, closing out teams in the third period like they did in game 5. Since Paul Maurice got here, this team is 22-0 when leading after 2 periods in the playoffs. They are a shutdown team. They closed the door. Yes, that's the players, but when it's that lopsided, the stat is that glaring, you have to give a lot of credit to the coaching staff and Paul Maurice as well.
Last night we had another all-time from Bob. I saw your tweet today, putting it next to the Bobbery. Like, what your reaction as that's going on? Because I continue to be floored what this guy can do on the ice, and it's now being added, of course, like you bring in his age and what he's able to do, but it's insane, man. It feels like every series he's got one where you're just like shaking your head. You're like, I can't believe that he came up with that.
Yeah, and that's what you need in the playoffs. Each goaltender has to make 3 or 4 spectacular saves. And Andrei Vasilevsky is one of the greatest of all time. He's a Hall of Famer, just like Bob. But Bob made 1 or 2 more bigger saves than he did in that series. And that one on Gonsalves in the second period, the Bobbery 2.0, that was it. That was a game changer. The Panthers had a 1-goal lead at that time. And it really kind of took the air out of the building and brought all that energy right to the Panthers bench. Sam Bennett told me after the game, like that was like a lightning bolt for those guys. To see your goaltender do that, not only does it keep a goal off the board, but it makes you say, man, Bob's in the zone. If we just keep up our end of the bargain tonight, like we're going to win this game. So he's been so good. And you look at his career trajectory, obviously when he got here to the Panthers, he was a 2-time Vezina winner, one of the best in the league, but his first couple years of the Cats didn't quite go well. And you remember, that run to the final against Vegas, he started that, playoff run on the bench. Alex Lyon was starting, and then he gets back in that series against Boston, and he's never looked back. He's just been elite ever since. So the mental fortitude, you have to have that to be a goaltender. But for Bob to kind of have that mental fortitude to kind of, be on the top of the mountain, go back down all the way to the bottom, and then climb all the way back up in a short period of time has just been so impressive. And he's just on another planet in the playoffs, like you said, and just gives us those kind of moments that take your breath away.
Well, it's also kind of crazy because it's like you go back to the Seth Jones thing that you're talking about, and a lot of Panthers fans are wondering, like, there was a lot of love from the fan base of Spencer Knight and what he was going to be and be kind of the heir apparent. And that's such a trust from the organization to be like, nah, even at Bob's age, we think like this isn't going anywhere. And he doesn't look what he is. It's pretty nuts to feel like they would have that kind of faith in him. But I mean, what a psycho worker he is. So I guess that makes sense, but it doesn't look like he's slowing down at all, Jameson.
No, Paul Maurice said he's in his prime, and he's 36 years old, and he's played 750 plus games in the NHL. But no, it's all about the routine for him. It's insane the work he puts in. You hear about it, you hear players talk about it, but just he lives and breathes hockey. It's all he does, especially on game days. I mean, you'll be walking through an arena and you'll just hear like clank, clank, and you'll look down the hallway and Bob's just deadlifting, and like he's starting tonight, and he's just over there just putting in a huge lift, a huge workout here after morning skate. So all this he does is work and focus on his craft. And it's why he's gotten so good. And he's not putting up the same save percentages as he used to, but that's because also the Panthers are playing a different game. They're only asking him to make, 4 or 5 big saves a game. He's doing it for these guys. He's doing just enough. He's still elite at his age. And, he's a guy where, goaltenders age well in the NHL. You have some goaltenders that play well into their early 40s that have still gotten the job done. And 36 years old, it's not crazy to think Bob has 4 or 5 good years left in him, just given how good he is and the commitment he has to his craft.
How was your impressions of Brad Marchand first playoff series? It really looks like he's rounding the form as the series even went on. It felt like he got more comfortable, but his first playoff series with the Panthers, what'd you make of it?
Oh, just absolute dog. Fits right in. Loves the Panthers. Loves the locker room. He was talking about you don't respect what the Panthers do until you get a part of it. Because obviously the Panthers, the way they attack you, they come in waves, they rough you up. You really don't fully understand it. You just think, oh, they're being physical. Oh, they're just deep. But then once you get in the locker room, you see how they work and you kind of see how the food is made. He's like, man, there's something really special here. And these guys kind of do have that secret sauce. And he fits right in for a guy like him that's been top line pretty much his whole career to come in, immediately say, okay, I'll play on the third line with these 2 young upstart Finnish guys that are great and accept that role and be so good at it. He's not on the top power play in it. He's just here to win. And he's, let's not forget, he's won 1 Stanley Cup, but that was his second year in the league. That was 13 years ago. He's hungry. Like he wants another one. It's been a long time. And so what was that?
No, I was saying, were you surprised at all, Jameson? Because like the experts, you guys tweeted it out yesterday, like so many people picking against the Panthers. Like I kind of blew my mind a little bit. Like,
no,
I know I'm not like on the national landscape. I was much with the national hockey perspective, but I was like, you did? You guys all picked the Lightning to win this series? I found that kind of crazy to see. Not that some picked overwhelmingly it was picking against the Cats.
Oh, I got the numbers. I got the receipts. I went into this. So if you would just go off the pre-series predictions, you think this was the greatest upset of all time. Like it's like the Panthers didn't even deserve to be there. Yeah, Sportsnet, 16 of 18 writers picked the Lightning. ESPN, 20 of 26. Athletic, 80+%. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a defending champion get disrespected quite like that. And like you said, it's incredible.
Because in football, we said, hey, I don't care how good Philadelphia is, right? I'm going with Kansas City because they're the champs. And like you do this in every other sport, right? And in hockey, the first series, they're like, hey, and so I wonder what they're going to say now because they beat them up pretty good.
And
it wasn't even close.
No, and I think that hurt the Lightning because the worst thing that you can do for the Panthers is give them a chip. This is a team that loves to be the underdog. I mean, they could be up in a series, and Matthew Tkachuk's still talking about, oh, we don't know if we're in control, or everyone's still against us. Like they love having that chip and being the underdogs. And this was the first year you could take that away from them and say, no, y'all the champs, y'all the favorites. And right off the bat, everyone says, all right, you guys are dead. We're counting you out. They love that. That gets in the locker room. That fuels this team. So really shocked, really surprised. We'll see what happens here with the round 2 predictions. But man, you think at that point an editor comes in and says, okay, a couple of you guys got to change your picks. This does not look right.
Is this path more difficult than last year's path? Because with the teams that, they're going to have to play, and regardless of who wins, it just seems like this road is much more difficult than it was last year.
It depends. You go last year and obviously Lightning round 1, but then you got Boston round 2, and Boston at the time, obviously still kind of the boogeyman there for the Panthers, even though they beat them the year before. That's just such a tough physical out of a series. And then you got the President's Trophy winners, the Rangers, there in the Eastern Conference Final. And then you got the Oilers. Whereas this year, you got to go through either Toronto or, Ottawa. We'll see what happens there. And then Carolina or Washington. Washington got the President's Trophy this year. I'd say there's less storylines. Maybe there's less personal rivalries here the rest of the way. But just deep teams, maybe not as highly skilled teams as last year, but just deep teams like the Panthers are, teams that love to forecheck. It might be just tougher physically now to get to the end than it was last year, maybe.
How much of a mistake do you think that hit was on Barkov? Like just to fuel their emotions of it? Because like I found not like I get in a series, teams don't want to seem like they're backing down to the Panthers, but like I threw so many profanities at my television because you don't do that to Alexander Barkov. Like he's like we said, he's like the sweet prince of hockey. He does everything the right way. And for somebody to take a cheap shot at him was crazy to me. So how do you feel like that did, not that they weren't going to win anyway, but just, do you feel like that just fueled the emotions even more of them?
Yeah, he's a former Lady Byng winner. He's the ultimate gentleman. He helps sick kids. He's like the ultimate good guy in the NHL. It's like, it's the one guy you really don't do that to. And obviously, it's kind of the unwritten rules of hockey, but there are certain guys you can hit and certain guys you can't hit. And Barkey's a guy you just can't put a hit like that on. And you saw, honestly, good for the Panthers for not going too crazy in the moment because that worked out for them. But you saw as the series went on, the Panthers just got nastier. They got meaner. And if you get into a nasty fight against the Panthers are going to win 9 times out of 10. They're built for that. So I once again, just like with the predictions, I think the Lightning in a lot of ways kind of awoke the Panthers a bit and kind of played into the Panthers' hands with how they thought they'd handle this series. Because with how the Panthers have played the last couple of years, a lot of teams do go into matchups saying, they're tough, they push us around, but we can do that too. Let's push them back. And it doesn't work out. You got to play your own game. You can't beat the Panthers at the Panthers game. So definitely set the tone for the rest of the series. Thankfully, Barkov's okay. But I think, that's just, once again, just not a smart move. And of course, we saw all the different altercations that follow after that, which just, for the most part, played into the Panthers' hands because, like I said, that's their brand of hockey.
Once Ekblad finishes the suspension, he's got one more. But it was interesting because, like, you come in right away off the suspension. He has such a big impact in that crucial game 4. What do you think it's going to mean when it kind of resets to normalcy of what he can do for them?
Oh, huge. He eats a ton of minutes. He's on the top, penalty killing unit. Seth Jones took his spot on the top power play for right now, but he can do that if called upon. And obviously things change throughout a long playoff run, but just an emotional leader, as you saw. You saw the fire he brought in that game, the physicality. You don't want anyone to get hurt, but just going and taking a big hit at Brandon Hagel. The Panthers appreciate that. It's defending the captain. Just went a bit too far there, but you love the physicality. You love what he brings, the emotion. A guy that's been there, a guy that's raised the cup over his head. And, a guy that even I don't know if you guys saw the puck video after game 5, he's the guy handing out the puck. He's not even in the game. He's not suited up, but he's in that locker room giving the puck to Brad Marchand. So it's a tight group. Anytime a guy gets kicked out and brought back in, they love it. It fires them up. So he's going to be huge getting him back in there. But quick shout out to Uvis Balinskis, for filling in when he was out. Panthers 3-0 on the road when he was in the lineup. So once again, depth. Depth is the word for the Cats. It just works out.
Jameson Olive, go follow his work, FloridaPanthers.com. Thanks for the time, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Anytime. Thanks, guys.
We'll take a break.